ก่อนโอเค
Okay. Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you here. And I begin with something that we had last week. There were about 12 senses. And that's a very important aspect in Waldorf education. For me, it is the aspect in Waldorf education because the whole curriculum is based on these 12 senses. Can you show the first picture, Shan? Yeah. So here we have the 12 senses, and touch, life, movement, balance. We said last time, this is in the beginning of the life, the first 7 years, the most important aspect to develop these senses. Then when the children come to school, we have to do with smell, taste, sight, and warmth. And in high school, we develop hearing, language, thoughts, and ego sense. For those who are new to this, it's probably not so easy to understand. For the others, it's a repetition. And the important aspect here is that the senses 1 to 4 are the basis for later development to hear properly, to understand language, words, and for the thoughts as the sun's sense of life. There is a relationship to it, and the sense of touch had to do with the ego. Sense of ego, that means understanding the ego of the other person I'm meeting. So what we are doing in the first 7 years is very important for from puberty on. So in the first 7 years, we have to, these senses have to do with the will. Everything is in the will here. And then the next group is in the feelings, sympathy and antipathy. And the last is developing the thinking. So that was that we had about the senses, and the next has to do with the sense of words. Can you show the next second picture, Shan? Yeah, that was an experiment that my granddaughter did. She saw a document by the Japanese Emoto that he had 3 jars with rice in water, and then you had to put the jars in a room and in a distance from each other in this room. And every morning, my granddaughter went to the jar where it is Danke, thank you, and was thinking towards the rice, or you are wonderful, you are tasteful, thank you. Then she went to the other, there she was thinking, oh, I don't like you, you are like an idiot, and no, it is not my favorite. And then she went No, she didn't go there. She ignored it. It was standing in a corner and she never looked at it. So after 30 days, there was this right one, a very, very bad stench, and was with fungus, whilst the left one, where she was praising the rice, thinking, oh, you are wonderful, that was smelling like a flower. And this one that she was thinking not nicely, that you see a little bit was, the smell was not so good, but still better than this on the right side. So that shows that it doesn't need speaking, just thinking towards something that is a living organism, because rice is a living organism. And so we are influencing just by our thoughts. This what is near to us, and is when we are very positively thinking about something, then this is positive for an organism. Therefore, maybe people who have with a green thumb, they are different in their feelings, in their thinking towards this plant. And others, well, the plant is not growing. They don't have enough love, loving thoughts. And this is also with people. So there were experiments with teachers who did not know, came to children where it was so, this child is bad and this child is very good. And then they were teaching, and this child, where they sent the positive thoughts, these children, they learned better than those where they knew they are not good. So we have to be aware that thoughts are not only there when we are speaking, they are also there when we are thinking, just having an idea about. So for example, I had a friend whose neighbor was not very nice and never talked to him. But my friend went along his property every morning and stood there and thought, oh, I wish you a very good day. And also after some month, suddenly this person came and was talking to him, and they became friends. So think about this. Yeah, this was about the 12 senses and about this, what is this thought, sense of thought. Now, Ishan, take the next slide. There is the aspect of the body. The body of a child is growing from the head, because the head in the baby is a most perfect part. The limbs, they are not fully developed in this sense. and limbs are not under control and the baby cannot stand, but slowly, by getting control over the limbs and so, also the body develops. So the hands first, then the legs and the trunk. So the bodily development goes from the head. But when we look at the soul is willing, feeling, and thinking. There, the baby is not starting with thinking that comes from the head. It is coming from the will. When you see the first movements of the baby, they have their movements not under control. It is a pure will. And slowly, slowly, they learn to bring their individual power into this chaotic will. And then they move their limbs, they learn to move their limbs. But also the baby is not, or the toddler is not free in the feeling. They are dependent on the feeling life of the adults, the parents around. And also it takes a while until they are beginning to have their own thoughts. So the feeling is in the beginning very much connected to the feelings of the people around until the age of 12. Then suddenly they don't feel anymore as the parents feel. They have their very own feelings. And so with education, education has to change. And the thinking, the own thoughts, they are beginning to develop towards age 18, 19, 20, 21. And then you see that these guys have the very own ideas that is often very strong against this, what is a thinking in the family. So there is a development of the soul that begins with a will in the first 7 years. The second 7 years, the feelings develop towards their own feelings. And the next 7 years, the thinking develops to the very own ideas. After 7 years, our body is totally renewed. There is no cell in us anymore that was there in the beginning. After 7 years, we have a totally new body. So when we come to with the dentition that happens between 5 to 7, sometimes even later, 8 years. And when the dentition has happened, then it is a sign that the body has reached a certain stand in development. Now it's the growth is not so intensive as before, and the hard part, the hardest part of the body, the tooth, they are out. And it shows, so now the life forces in the body, they are free. They don't have to bring out the teeth anymore. there is a surplus of life forces, and they are then used for thinking in a way as the children learn when they enter school. So what happens in the time is the next picture. The long time effect of education. In the first 7 years, then the nerve system is developing. The synapses in the brain are formed. And it happens through movements. So everything what we have in the 12 senses in the beginning, touch, life, movement, balance, this is the most important part to develop the nerve system. Then the next 7 years, there is developing the blood circulation, the rhythm of the heart. Now, the rhythm of the heart gets towards this, what goes with us through life. Before, it is faster. And the warmth of the blood is interesting, mostly in the region of the head. In the beginning, when they enter school, there they have more warmth in the head than in the parts in the limbs. But towards age 11, 12, 13, this changes. And the warmth of the blood is stronger in the lower part. So there is a change that a teacher can observe, that when you have the beginning of the lesson or the children have to stand a little bit longer, that mostly girls suddenly feel dizzy or even faint. And that has to do that now the blood is more centered in the lower parts of the body. So then I told them, if you feel dizzy, just sit down. That is fine. So there is a development that has to do with antipathy and sympathy. These are the middle senses. With smell, you know, our smell has to do with antipathy or sympathy. The perfume industry lives from this, what is sympathy. And also the taste, we like the taste or we dislike the taste. Also what we are looking at, that looks nice or it looks ugly, and also the warmth. So everything here has to do with sympathy and antipathy. And this has an effect on our rhythmical system. So the nerves are basically developed, then the rhythmical system, and now beyond 14, then we come to metabolism in the limbs. You know, when you have people 18 years, 17 years, sweet 17s, they have most beautiful bodies. Everyone loves these beautiful, developed, harmoniously bodies. And also the metabolism is strong, and they eat junk food or not, whatever. So this is something. Then with 21, we can say approximately that now we have a human being in front of us, where these parts of the human being are properly developed. And so we are entering with all these beautiful gifts. And when we are beyond 35, then already it begins that, yeah, we are now not so flourishing anymore. And one can observe that it begins that, yeah, but from 20 or 42 on, people cannot eat anymore. All this what they did before. I know it from my daughters. They then had, I can't eat this anymore. So they had to change the diet. In others, they feel that the limbs are aching. So in growing older, one feels now the opposite, that it doesn't work anymore so nice as before. And then between 49, 56, one can observe that people get problems with the heart attacks, and so on. I myself also had this. And then you have to change something in your life. And then beyond 56, it begins that the nerve system is not so nicely working anymore. Your memory is fading. And so just this is something where we can see that what happened in the first 21 years mirrors later in life. And when you had a perfect childhood somehow, then later you have less problems in the growing older in metabolism or rhythmical system or nerve system. So you stay younger, longer than others when you had a good time, good education in the first 21 years. This is an important aspect, that education is coming out later in life as health or less. So one can say we can care for a good aging when we are caring for a good time in youth. So this is important to know for this, what we need for school readiness. That is our topic today, school readiness. So that means we are talking about the first 7 years, what has to happen, that when they enter school, what are we expecting from the children? And so I show you some facts of the school readiness. So then we can talk about this, what happens in education later. So the first grade readiness, there are guidelines. So that's what a teacher is looking at. Is looking at the bodily proportions. So the teacher sees a loss of baby fat, or the joints are visible. Otherwise, you have these nice knuckles, or the arch in the foot has formed, and the S curve in the spine. And that is a sign that this bodily development has happened, and these forces are now free for learning. There's a second dentition, where I said this is a sign that now there is a surplus of forces that can be used for learning. That is not the only aspect, of course, although we are talking very often about dentition. But the other things are now also visible, important. Then the physical abilities that we are looking at. Are they able to walk a beam? Can they catch and throw the ball? And hopping on one foot or the other. Climbing stairs with alternating feet. I've just a 3-year-old here who is just going from one stair to the another one. Not right, left, right, left. Then we are looking at the dexterity of the hands, right or left or crossed. Then the dominance, eye-hand dominance. Yeah, if they are not restless, lethargic. So how is this child present when it is there at school? Next, please. Shan? Yeah. We look at the social emotional development. Developing feelings for other needs, doing things for others, goal-oriented, doing things goal-oriented. Children are able to play just in their mind. They are sitting in a corner and just talking to each other what they are playing. They do not need an object anymore. Then social and emotional abilities. Are they able to join in offered activities? For example, in one aspect in the test could be that you have a group of children who are about to come to school, and in a group then they play together. Can they join activities? Are they able to look after the things for themselves when they go to the toilets or eating? The ability to share teachers or parents' attention and wait for the turn. So when the parents are sitting beside the child in this check, And then can the child has an idea and goes, Mom, Mom, but it has to wait for the turn. Is the child able to do this? Is it able to follow instructions, carrying through activities? Then we let the children draw or paint. So can you give the child an idea what it should draw? And is a child easily done? Or how much does a child bring into the picture? And so come to the next place. At the next chant. Hello, Shan. Yeah. Then the soul life, the will. Science, that is that the next one, yeah? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
Good.
next one. Yeah.
Yeah. So conscious goal appear in play, in drawing, and whatever we do, that is, can they do it actively with their limbs, with their fingers? Then the signs of first-grade readiness and feeling life. Yeah. Are they calm? Can they handle their feelings, their emotions? Does it need intervention of the adult or less? How is it with humor? They will, you will give them rhymes to say, play with words. Some children love silly words. And in the thinking, what are they using in their language? Can they say because of and therefore? Or are they using the word if? So if I tie these strings together, they will reach the play stand. So there is a logic in this. Then the correct use of words. Can they plan? Have they love their humor? So why was the cook mean? Because he beat the eggs and whipped the cream. That's something that children can laugh about. The memory becomes conscious. So they can remember stories that happened a week ago. They repeat songs, or they can repeat stories. So it speaks fluently, clearly, can express ideas easily and fully, can concentrate to 10 to 15 minutes. And then the skills of pencil, scissors, knowing what is mine this is in the time before not always clear, they go and take the toys of others when they are ripe for school. They would not do this anymore. Yeah. So these are the criteria where the teacher might look at the child. Yeah. Okay. Now we come to the next picture. This is in 7 years. And here, in 7 years, we can observe also the soul development. In the first 3 years, it's so that the children are very much dependent on what they are doing from this, what they see. For example, I just had one great-grandchild here, and so she was 11 months, and I did something this year. So that was very interesting for her. After a while, she put her finger into the mouth. Couldn't do this, only putting the finger into the mouth.
I can't do it.
The other, day, she saw me. She put her finger into the mouth and expected that I make it again. So, but also I did a little song with my hands. Wie das Fähnlein auf dem Turme sich kann drehen. So, and after a while, she raised her hands and made something like this. So she followed in my gestures. Then they imitate very much what they see in the movements around. So when you have somebody around who makes very chaotic movements, they will imitate this. Somebody who makes very calm movements, they will imitate this. So the kindergarten teachers, if you observe the movements, they will always be very soft and simple. Then between 3 and 5, the feelings are coming up and they can join the play of others. And these are in the kindergarten group, children beyond 5, they are the ones who have the play, the theme of what they are playing. And the younger ones, they want to join, but they have not the idea of the play. That comes from the older ones. They think the tragedy, the story. And the little ones, they just swing in. And then there is maybe an animal, and they say, you are the cat. And then the feeling children say, no, I don't want to be the cat. I want to be the doggy. And those who are there, the older ones say, okay, you are the doggy. So therefore, it's good to have a mixed group in kindergarten. So they learn differently from each other. Also, they grow into this, what is the thinking, when the dentition is happening. So the whole 7 years are so that still the imitation is important. And there the imitation also of this, what the adults are thinking, feeling, doing. So if you want your child that it becomes an upright, moral person, then you should be aware of your thoughts. Are they good thoughts? Then the child can imitate you, because a child in this age believes in the goodness of the world, and therefore they are imitating everything. And there it is a danger when little children watch cartoons. Cartoons mostly are dealing with violence, but funny, and you laugh about this. So one is laughing about cruelty, bullying, and how can conscience develop when you look at this? Your conscience put to sleep when you are laughing about cruelties. So the world is good. We have to become role models in thinking, feeling, and willing. And this means for us adults that we have to educate ourselves, self-education. So once a mother came to me and said, what shall I do? My child is hyperactive. My child is 5 years old. I said, usually it's imitation. The child is imitating something. So please tell me, what is your daily lifestyle? And what the mother said was so hyperactive. She didn't take time to sit by the child. She was always on the run. So I said, yeah, your child is imitating you. If you change, then you will see that hyperactivity will disappear. Now, in the first 7 years, the children's brain is active in the right hemisphere. The right hemisphere of the brain. No, that is not the picture. Too early. Thank you. And we talked about last time about the right and the left hemisphere. Yeah, the left hemisphere is for the logic and also for language. The right hemisphere is for emotions, for holistic perception, creativity, and so it has an explanation for the children, explaining the world, that we have to wait until the left hemisphere develops. And this happens after 7 years, that the left hemisphere swings in, and up to age 9, then the left hemisphere is fully developed. So when we are explaining the world, as we as adults understand it, then we should not wonder when the child is losing interest in our explanations. But when we come to explain it through stories, to imaginations, through pictures, then they are getting interested. So what we do with the children is that we should allow the child to be astonished, to admire, to be curious, to respect, to marvel. This is the beginning of science. Being astonished, to marvel. It begins science like this. So then we give the quality of science into their life when we are letting the children play their imaginations. Then it belongs that the children should have rules and rhythms that leads to trust and bonding. So the media, the comics, they are not fostering these qualities that will be good for the children. And the play, they should have freedom in play. And the toys should not be the toys that you see in the toy shops of today. They should be less complicated. It is just enough when it is wool and some wood and so on. I think when Doreen Eng from Wondrous Light Kindergarten is there, she should give a lecture on this, how the life of the children the first 7 years should be. I don't explain something here. So you can see that becoming ready for school is not preparing them to know letters and numbers. No, it is that they learn skills that are so that they are imitating. For example, in kindergarten, that they are helping the teachers in preparing food, that they're helping in doing the dishes or setting the tables, then how they do things with their hands. That is forming the synapses of the brain. So when you can provide the children with this kind of simple childhood, then they develop qualities that when they come to school, they can concentrate, they can listen, they can observe. With this, what they learn, they have imaginations. Imagination is something that keeps you together with the subject. And this is something that is the right preparation for school. Those children, they are later on at school mostly top students. It's something that I experienced in my life again and again, that when children had a protected childhood, where everyone in modern life thinks, oh, they don't do this, they don't do that. How will they learn? How will they cope? They have no computer or like this. No, when those children are coming to school, they are so well prepared. They are so curious on everything. So they learn, they have this, what is a quality for learning. Learning is not only in that what we have in the head. Learning has to do with the feelings and also with the will. Let's come to the next picture. This is something that we have to become aware, and mostly for people that is very new. As I say, Rudolf Steiner has talked about this in lectures about this, what I'm going to talk now. And now the science finds out that we have at least two brains. The brain in the head, but also our other organism is also a kind of brain. But they don't bring it together, the two brains, how they work. I will make an experiment with you. I said in July 20, remember, what have you done on the 20th of July? What did you do? It's really now a task for you. I give you a little moment. Think about it. July 20. Is somebody there who could remember? I can't. I can't. Yeah. How are you? Is there somebody who knows?
May I?
Yeah.
I remember because it was my friend's birthday and we all went to wish her.
That's good. Wonderful. Then you didn't have the struggle that I had.
No, I didn't.
So, you know what happens with me? There is a task, July 20, that happens here in my head, the fact. But now I experience that I go down here into my body, and here there is, I'm looking here in my body, and then I give up. I give up, I'm disappointed, and I come back to my head and say, oh, okay, what else? And in this moment, I am here again in my body. And after a while, I give up, I'm disappointed. And then I'm in my head again. And then, wow, I can't. So I'm very disappointed. about myself. I can't remember. But it is so, my brain is always saying yes or no to this, what is here. So those with your birthday, you were lucky. The question was here, and then you were here. And I think in this moment, you felt very relieved and very happy, and no disappointment, but the satisfaction that came from here. And the brain was happy and said, yes, 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 yes. And this is what the memory is. Our memory is stored in our inner organs, in the lungs, in the liver, in the heart, in the stomach. If you are looking back into your history, into your childhood, then you will always feel that here in this inner organ something is happening. Maybe you feel well or you feel unwell, but it's really here. The brain only says yes and no. The memory is not in the brain. That is just a mirror for the events which are stored in our inner organs. And this has to do with our feelings. So we are remembering things better when we feel, with our emotions, bad or good ones. I think there we have to look at it. That will change a lot in education. When we bring this together, the brain here and the brain here. So that then we will have different opinions about learning. And that's in Waldorf education, especially in the second 7 years, that we do everything that the children are enjoying, that they have sympathy, but also antipathy. This is something we have, we work with polarities. And this is fostering a healthy memory. So in the education, what they learn at the Waldorf school is so refreshing. So what our principle is, from doing to feeling to understanding. So in the beginning is the will, the activity. Then we feel during this. And then we are thinking about it. That is a healthy way of learning. So, and then, of course, there is a lot to say. That is a new world where we can dive in when we learn about how school should be with this, what is a memory and what is a soul, thinking, feeling, and willing, and the whole development, the 12 senses. And Waldorf education, therefore, is so different So, and now I will come to a last point for today. This is here about music as drug prevention. We have so many problems today with drugs, and it would be easier to deal with this when we have an understanding of music. So there we have the child when it is 10 years old, 11 years old. It's the middle of childhood. And when you look at this child, they have a perfect built body. They are moving, enjoying, and jumping. And for a teacher in class 5, it is a wonderful time. And when the children come to school after holidays and they are 12 years old, you see very different persons for you in front of you. The limbs are longer, long arms, long legs. Some are taller than the teacher. And the trunk is short, stayed short, but the limbs are very long. And what does this mean? This means that the muscles and the tendons, they have not developed. So they have long limbs with less muscles. And when they are moving now, the limbs, somehow they cannot really control it. So they bang the door. They didn't in the class before. They bang the door because they don't have the feeling how strong the movement should be. Or they just run against the table. So they're very clumsy. And they don't like to stand as before. They like to sit. They sit on the ground. And then the boys often begin to fight. So it's a very different behavior. And what we see is that gravity is now entering the body. They are into the influence of gravity. And this, in the soul, gives a certain taste. Gravity, you feel yourself much more than before. In class 5, the gravity was not visible. And they could share, they could be happy together. Now it is difficult. The egotism, they feel their ego. And now what happens when egotism is in the soul, is in the will, then the elbows, yeah, I am here. And in the end, it leads to violence. Something that comes up violence. When it goes into the feelings, then egotism in the feelings. You are lying. Yeah, you see that you get your good fortune and not the other ones. And if the egotism gets into the thinking, then this intellect thinks, how can I get this chocolate in the shop? And it's always that we experienced children 12 years old, they go and they are a little gang and say, you talk with a shopkeeper and I steal. So they develop a strategy. It is just that now this intellect has got egotism. So this age is so that suddenly my beautiful child is stealing, is lying, is violent. And my education was so well done. But this comes because the egotism that comes via the gravity into the body and into the soul. And now comes the music. Music comes from the levity. You know, when you might be down and tired, but you switch on the music and you can dance. It's forgotten. You are so relaxed. You feel light. And here we have rhythm, harmony, and melody in the music. And these three are related to thinking, feeling, and willing. The melody through the thinking, the harmony to the feeling, the rhythm to the will. And this enters the soul and makes the soul light. Just the opposite that comes from the growth of the limbs of the body that makes it hard and egotism. So if the children have no music, then they stay with this egotism. And now they are looking for something that makes the soul light. So what makes the soul light? Alcohol, for example, or smoking, drugs. Then they feel light, not so heavy anymore. And so they get into this field of drugs because it is just this, what the soul is wanting to have levity. So every child gets into this dark sphere of stealing, lying, violence. But when the children have experience of practicing music, not only listening to music in the radio, no, doing it by themselves with instruments, according to the age. In kindergarten, you can already have practicing music. But in school, our children learn recorder and violin. And finally, you have a school orchestra with everything. And they are singing all the time, every day. So they grow up with music. So they have levity in their soul, incarnated music. And so when this 12th year is going to happen, they have the anti-drug in them, music, and they get out of this earlier. They might not even get into the drugs because of this, that they have the music. They do not need to have this. Music carries them over this time.
Horst is 317.
Yeah, and that was my last sentence. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, are you ready for the Q&A?
Yes.
Okay, then I will stop the recording. Stop the recording.